The trials of life. Why must I go through them? What did I do to deserve this? How can such a wicked thing happen to such a good person? Why didn't God spare my loved one? Is God as loving as he says he is, or am I just wasting my time? When it comes to the many trials of life, these are the very things that typically come out of people's mouths when they're going through it. But is there an answer in the Bible that expresses why these things happen, why we go through them, and why it may seem as if God doesn't really care? Let's find out. Greetings everyone, my name is Jonathan Gardner from POTS Ministries, and today we're going to talk about a subject which obviously affects everybody in one way, shape or form. And the main reason why I wanted to do this is because I wanted to dedicate it to something that happened recently. It was a recent tragedy where a family friend lost their loved one before she was even born. And for those of you who are parents out there, I'm sure many of you who have probably experienced this may have asked the same question. How can God allow this to happen? Why did this happen? I mean, is it even fair? And I guess as I was thinking about this, I also remember the time when I lost both my parents. They were both dedicated in the Lord, and commonly, you probably know, I asked the question, Lord, how could they die in such a way? And I'm sure that some of you who are watching as well, it may not necessarily be a loss of life, but there's been an area in your life where you've asked the question, Lord, what is going on? And so as I was at the funeral, I was really trying to take time to pray and to think about the events of somebody dying or the things that we go through in life, and to really try to make sense about what God is actually doing, and if there's any answers in his word that can give us hope, peace and comfort through all the tragics that we go through. Because I know for a certainty that God is in control, as well as the fact that he cares for each and every one of us, especially when we go through things of this nature. And so with this, I want to introduce you to our 5-part series, which is entitled 5 Reasons We Go Through Trials. And for those of you who are going to watch this, I pray that whatever experiences that you go through, may the Lord continue to keep you, may he continue to give you his peace and comfort, and for you to know that his wisdom is absolutely perfect, even in the hard times that we go through. I dedicate this series to Heaven Lily Stone. Reason number 1. Trials reveal character. Now I want to begin this series with this verse. It's taken from 1 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 12, which says, Wherefore to him that thinketh he standeth, take heed lest he fall. Now what this simply means is that when at times we think that we're doing good things, or there's times where we think that we're better off because of something or whatever the case may be, we at times may think that we are at good relations with God. And this can be manifested in things like the words we say, the actions we perform, such as feeding the homeless, helping the poor, or even helping somebody cross the street. And because of those acts of service, you may hear words expressed about you such as, oh, what a graceful person, what a nice person, what a kind person. And though these things are not bad in and of itself, at times we can let that now pride us and make us think that yes, I am standing in good relation with God. But Paul says, take heed lest you fall. Because one day what could happen? You may end up going through a situation or even a trial where you may think that you are a kind, loving, nice, graceful person, only for you to find out that when you receive your driver's license, for example, you may have somebody cut right in front of you only to show rage, impatience while you're on the road. Or another example could even be something such as marriage. It may be lovely at first, getting to be with the one that you've cherished because of who they are and how long you've known them. But many of you know that the traits of character that you did not know before you were married to that person starts to manifest when socks are left all over the house isn't cleaned, the bed isn't made, and then arguments, resentments, and unforgiveness sadly results. Now, what's the point of what I'm trying to say? At times we often think that because things are going so smoothly that we don't think that there's anything wrong with us. But then a certain situation may pop up which actually reveals what was in us all along. Therefore in life it takes a trial just to show us what is really in our hearts. Without the trials we would never know. Now a dear brother of mine, a very powerful evangelist of God who's even helped me in my spiritual growth, who reaches hundreds of thousands of people, recently had heart surgery which he did not expect. Now in his testimony he mentioned how he charged God with folly which in another way was taunting God, or was in a way saying, Lord, I did all this work for you, giving up my life to this ministry, traveling everywhere to do your work, and this is how you treat me. You're going to make me die on a surgical table? And as he was saying these things, he actually realized a very important fact. He did not know that that kind of spirit was in his heart. And the fact of the matter is, he would not have even known that until he had gone through that surgical trial. And because of this, he realized what his character was. Now, after my friend actually realized this, he repented of his sin and started to praise God even more, because he knew that the trial that he had to go through on that surgical table was for his own benefits. Even for myself, there was a time when I was working and my manager really wanted me to do extra work, but I had to decline because I had personal work to do, only for him to mock me in front of everybody else. And for people who know me, I'm not one to be very angry or to get angry very quickly, but for some reason I felt a huge amount of anger when he mocks me in front of everyone. Now, though I didn't mention any bad words or any curses or let my anger out because I knew that the Spirit of God held me in check, I understood that a trial had to happen just to see that there was a possibility for me to be angry. That should have never have been able to rise up, which means I know that Christ had to show me myself. And so friends, I'm sure many of you who are watching this probably know of certain experiences that you've gone through as well. But the question is this: what should our attitudes be when we go through trials of life? James chapter 1 verse 2 and 3 says, "My brethren, count it all joy when ye fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience." Now, when I read these things, I often wonder, how did Jesus actually go through what he went through? Or does he give examples of how he was in certain circumstances and situations that was to try his experience? Notice a few. If somebody spat in your face, yanked out your beard, mocked you and said falsified information and gossiped about you, how would you react? Now, honestly speaking, and I'm sure you can agree with me on this, many of us would either retaliate or say, you know what, I've got rights, you better watch yourself. Well, when they mocked Jesus, he prayed to the Father to say, Lord, forgive them, for they don't know what they do. When the soldiers attacked him with Peter trying to defend him, he said, those who live by the sword will die by the sword. When they spat on him, whipped him, and struck him, he said not a word. And that's because the trials of life actually brought out the characteristic of Jesus Christ, and Jesus expressed nothing but love. So though trials are there for us, it's not just to show our defects, but it is to show who we are as well, as it showed Jesus who he was. And so friends, when we come to understand the trials in this context, we shouldn't look at trials as a way of fretting God or saying, God, you're not loving, you don't care about me, you're so unfair. Instead, we should be saying, Lord, what are you teaching me in this circumstance? What are you teaching me in this trial? And how can I be like you as I go through this trial that you've allowed me to go through? Now, I want to read this inspired quote, which really opens up and gives high meaning and high depth to what I'm talking about in this subject. Notice this reading. It is in mercy that the Lord reveals to men their hidden defects. He would have them critically examine the complicated emotions and motives of their own hearts, and detect that which is wrong, and modify their dispositions and refine their manners. God would have his servants become acquainted with their own hearts. In order to bring to them a true knowledge of their condition, he permits the fire of affliction to assail them, so that they may be purified. The trials of life are God's workmen to remove the impurities, infirmities, and roughness from our characters, and fit them for the society of pure, heavenly angels in glory. Then, as we pass through trial, as the fire of affliction kindles upon us, shall we not keep our eyes fixed upon the things that are unseen, on the eternal inheritance, the immortal life, the far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory? And while we do this, the fire will not consume us, but only remove the dross, and we shall come forth 7 times purified, bearing the impression of the divine. Friends, when we truly understand this quote, as well as a verse in James chapter 1, we can understand that this is not simply talking about whether we believe God exists, but rather, do we trust in Him? Do we simply trust in the naked promises of God? Meaning, do we take His word for what it says? If we do, then we are experiencing the exact same thing that Paul experienced in Philippians chapter 4 verse 13, where he says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. But I want you to understand why Paul was able to say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Notice, not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content. I know both how to be abased and how to abound. Everywhere and in all things I am instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Yes, friends, the reason why Paul was able to say that is because he experienced Christ in every circumstance of life. And so, friends, what about you and I? What about us? Are we going to continue to fret and say, God, why are you making me go through this? Or are we going to use this time to say, Lord, show me your glory? And friends, don't be surprised that some of the decisions or the trials of life that we actually go through is because of our own simple choices, because we didn't follow God to begin with. This takes serious examination. Hebrews chapter 12 verse 6 says, the Lord disciplines everyone he loves. He severely disciplines everyone he accepts as his child. Endure your discipline. God corrects you as a father corrects his children. All children are disciplined by their fathers. If you aren't disciplined like the other children, you aren't part of the family. On earth, we have fathers who discipline us and we respect them. Shouldn't we place ourselves under the authority of God, the Father of spirits, so that we will live? For a short time our fathers disciplined us as they thought best. Yet God disciplines us for our good, our own good, so that we can become holy like Him. We don't enjoy being disciplined. It always seems to cause more pain than joy. But later on, those who learn from that discipline have peace that comes from doing what is right. And so, friends, understand this. Though it may feel natural that the trials of life may seem like God doesn't care, He's actually doing this because He loves us greatly. As the verse expressed, the same way a parent disciplines their child is simply because they want them to make sure that you're not going in the wrong direction. The parents have gone through these things before and they're just trying to protect their own. Now, friends, when you truly understand this, when you hear of the gospels like the prosperity gospel, you get millions of pounds or dollars or whatever currency you are where you are right now, and you get all these nice things, you can understand that it's a very big contrast to the actual biblical theme of the trials of life that we have to go through. And so don't be surprised, my friends, when you may end up getting a huge promotion at your job, for example, when you know for a fact that that job, that new promotion is going to absorb all your time for no prayer, no Bible study, and no examination of your lives. For it is those who will be tried in the fire of affliction in the trials of life that's going to make it right through to the end until Jesus Christ comes again. And so, friends, I want to encourage you with this thought that if and when we go through our trials of life, let us use that time to examine. Ask the Lord, Lord, what are you showing me about myself and how can I become more like you? Okay, friends, thank you very much for watching. This is part 1 of why we go through trials. Part 2, which is coming very soon, will be entitled, The Reason We Go Through Trials is to Increase Our Faith. And so if this has blessed you, please subscribe to our channel. Please share this video with many of your friends and family who you know may be going through trials at this time. And it is our hope and prayer that this ministry will go forward full time. So by your means, your prayers and your support, we can try and make sure we do this on a regular basis more often than usual. So we ask that you please support us, that we may push forward the gospel in rapid succession. Okay, friends, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in part 2. God bless, and may you continue to keep faithful. Ask the Lord in your trials, Lord, show me your glory. God bless. Bye for now.